Okay, so this is my first time trying this hangout on air. I thought it would be a good way to demonstrate the sugaring technique, and so here I am. I'm Grace Power, and this is my sugar. The brand is called myGoldSugar, and you can learn more about it at myGoldSugar.com. And I'm going to actually show the stick method. This is something you could do at home using a butter knife and the sugar. I just warm this in the microwave for 10 seconds, so it's a little bit soft, but not super soft. Okay, now my leg has been growing here for a long time. Grace Power, and this is my, that was weird. It's like started broadcasting somewhere, so all right, so here is the sugar. I'm going to kind of get a big blob on this knife, and this is my hairy leg, and you can just kind of start wherever. With the sugar, you can go over the skin multiple times before it starts to get red and irritated, which is different than waxing. So there's not really any special pattern that you need to use specifically. So to get this flick, I'm pulling the skin tight up here, and then I'm starting up like this, then dropping down, putting a little pressure. Oop. If I do it too slow, I guess it doesn't work. So come up where there's no sugar, drop down and flick. Come up where there's no sugar, drop down and flick. And you always want to come up where there's no sugar. If I try to flick in here where there's sugar, it's not going to work. So you always want to come up above, drop down and flick. And then when you start kind of getting a ball there, it does make it a little trickier, especially with the knife. Okay, so to get these little other pieces, I'm just kind of rolling on the skin. All right, I want to try to get this camera so you can really see this a little better here. Okay. All right, so actually I wanted to try to use the side that, there we go. I want to try to use the side of the knife that doesn't have the little sharp pokies in it, but just naturally I hold my knife like that way, so you have to think about holding your knife upside down. Okay, and you can tell, like, after I did that first one, the first pass is always a little bit trickier to get off, and that's normal. That next one, went so much smoother, and you'll see that as I go along here, it gets a little bit easier. And then eventually it starts to get a little harder to remove, and then that's when you usually need a new fresh piece of sugar. One thing that's nice about the knife or stick method, you could also use like a not a popsicle stick. The jumbo craft stick actually works pretty good for the legs. But the nice thing about it is you can apply the sugar thinner than if you were applying it with your hand. And a lot of times the thinner the sugar goes on, the more hair gets pulled. So it's one little tip. All right. So I don't know if you can see in the video, but there's like a few little sugar bulbs, little pieces, and you just want to kind of roll on and off the skin to get those, to pick those up. And you can see with sugar, I'm applying up against the hair growth and then pulling down with the hair growth, which is the opposite of your traditional waxing method. Sugar just seems to work a little better using it in that way. If you have like really warm hands or maybe sweaty hands, the stick method is also a nice option, because then your hands aren't, affecting the way the sugar works. I've had some customers that have called me saying, I'm just have really hot hands or really hot skin, and it's making the sugar just get all melty and not work very well and make it really hard to remove. So the knife, using a knife is a good way to eliminate, the heat from your hands affecting the sugar. And the speed that I'm going to apply the sugar is about the right speed. You don't want to put it on too fast. You just want to you kind of want to just let it mold on, like melt onto the skin. So that's why, you don't want to go too fast when you're applying it. So I am using this hand a lot to hold the skin tight. That helps get more hair, and it also helps the sugar flick off better. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I can flip around here and do the other side so you can see it. And you can see the sugar is, since I started, it was nice golden color, and now it's like kind of a whitish color. And that's just all the dead skin that gets picked up as you're sugaring. The benefit of that is that your skin is being exfoliated. That's always a nice thing, to get all that dead skin off. But if you have a lot of dead skin, you might find that you're using more sugar, because once it gets too white, I guess, or too much dead skin cells in there, it just makes it harder to work. It doesn't seem to pick up the hair as well. So I used to, when I was working in the salon, I would recommend, if people were doing their legs, that they exfoliated the day before with a washcloth or loofah, something to kind of pick up a lot of that dead skin, so then when they came in, the sugaring went a little bit faster, because I didn't have to keep switching out my sugar as much. So when I was applying it the last time, I could feel a couple hairs getting pulled, and that reminded me that if you're putting the sugar on and it hurts, if you're applying the sugar and you're like, that really hurts, you're probably going a little too fast. And when you go too fast, it just kind of pulls a lot of those long hairs, and it does hurt. So just slow down a little bit when you're applying it, and that should make it so that the hairs don't get pulled, because the sugar has time to kind of melt on instead of being forced and pulled on. All right, this ball is pretty much done. Let's see if I have something I can kind of grab it that way. All right. So I just kind of pinched it with some plastic and pulled it off the knife, threw it in the garbage. I'm gonna get some more sugar here. Another nice size piece. When you're doing legs, you can use a pretty good amount of sugar, since it's a bigger area. So again, when you do a brand new piece of sugar, it's always a little bit tricky to get off. So don't be frustrated. So I'm really pulling that skin tight by pulling on with this hand. Okay, that one wasn't quite as hard as last time. Hopefully you guys can still see. So on the back of my hair, back on my leg, the hair is growing more sideways. So that's why I'm kind of going at an angle here. You always want to think about putting the sugar on against the hair growth and then pulling with the hair growth. And that's going to help less hair break. A lot of times with waxing, it looks like you're getting all the hair, but unfortunately it kind of depends on the, you know, the wax and the technique and stuff. But a lot of times waxing is breaking off a lot of hair. And with sugaring, I've found that because of this method, going against the hair and flicking with, it does seem to break less hair, and so your sugar, you know, your hair removal lasts a little bit longer because the hairs are getting pulled out by the root. They're not getting broken off in that follicle. Not to say that there's not any hair breakage, because I have seen even with sugaring that, you know, some of the hairs will break, but it does seem to be less than with waxing. And that's with hard wax or with strip wax. I've compared it, you know, side by side, both methods, and the sugar definitely seems to last a little bit longer because it's just getting more of those hairs out by the root, which is a nice benefit. Because when you go through this kind of treatment, you know, it does hurt, and you know, not only does it hurt when you're doing it, but you had to let your hair grow in, which was kind of, can be you know, just a little bit of a nuisance. You know, maybe you have to pass up wearing a skirt or a swimsuit or something because your hair's all grown in. So you want to make sure your sugar is worth it. Okay, there's still some hair back here. And if I wasn't doing this on a video, you know, on this hangout here, you could actually, you know, be watching TV or listening to some of your favorite music while you're doing this. It doesn't have to just be, you know, a waste of time, so to speak. You could actually be, you know, multitasking a little bit. It also might be something you could do, you know, with a friend or a sister or mom or something. That might make it a little fun. Have a little girls' night, pour some wine, eat some chocolate and sugar. All right, so at this point, I've pretty much gone over my entire lower leg here. And now I'm just kind of going around looking for, you know, little missed hairs or sections that I might have missed. All right, so if you get stuck like this, just be patient. It will come off. So if you do get stuck, just kind of try coming at the sugar from a couple different angles, and it usually comes off. You can also just let it sit on for a minute and just leave it alone, and that'll help it firm up and make it easier to come off too. One thing I was thinking about with a knife, using a knife, is that the metal will still transfer some heat. So that might, you know, make the sugar a little bit softer. I mean, not too much, but compared to using like a wooden stick that doesn't transfer heat, a metal knife might transfer some heat. So, you know, if you're finding that the sugar is still, you know, getting really melty and not working for you with using a butter knife, maybe try using like a plastic knife, or you know, or if you can get some of those jumbo craft sticks. They sell them at Walmart and Hobby Lobby, and those do work really well. But I just didn't have any here at the house, and it's like, okay, well, what can I use to do this, you know, without making a special trip into town? Okay, there's still some hair under here. Getting the back of the legs is always a little tricky when you're doing yourself. And one of the benefits of going to a salon, if you can afford it and if you can do that, is just they can get to the back of your legs a lot easier. Okay. I'm just kind of triple checking here. All right, so it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and go up to my inner thigh here. I think the sugar is actually still usable, so I'm gonna keep using this. And I'm really holding my thigh over here. I'm just like pinching and grabbing, holding the skin tight. Got a fistful of flesh. Okay. And my hair up here does, grow mostly like this. Down here there was some hairs growing this way, but mostly it's growing sideways. And then it kind of changes once I get to the back of my legs. All right, I wonder if you guys can see. Okay, I'll bring it a little bit closer. Okay, again, I'm really holding the skin tight. If you're getting stuck on your inner thighs, a lot of times it's because you're not holding the skin tight enough. Okay, so that's my little baby crying. I gotta go. Have a great day. All right, so I'm back. My baby woke up, but he went back to sleep. So I'm going to continue on with the upper thigh sugaring. And I'm using a butter knife because I figured that's something most people have at home. And it's something you could use. All right, so I got this part, and I'm just going to continue. Let's see. Put this down a little bit. Okay. So the back of my leg, my hairs are growing all sorts of different ways. So if you can, you want to go against the hair growth and pull with the hair growth. But if you're like me and it's just like growing wild, just, the best, just do your best. And you'll find that sometimes if you don't go the advised way against the hair and pulling with the hair, the hair will still come out. So just be creative and kind of, do what works for you. Because when you're doing yourself, you are limited to the kind of angles you can get at too with sugaring yourself. Okay. I feel like it's hard to see what I'm doing. Let me come up a little bit closer. Okay. And because my skin is I have more skin on my upper thigh, I'm doing smaller sections, so it's easier for me to hold the skin tight. And I always make sure to hold the skin tight from the area I'm pulling. So like a lot of time, like if I'm going to pull from up here, I want to hold tight up here. It doesn't do as much good to hold down here. And then one of the good things is I let my hair grow in really long, so it is coming out really nicely. You'll find that, you know, if your hair is a little shorter, it might take a couple more passes to get the hair out, but when it's long, there's more for the sugar to grab and it comes out pretty easily. So one reason doing like men's backs, if they haven't, you know, trimmed or anything and they've just been letting it grow, it usually is pretty rewarding because it comes out pretty nice. Okay, so to do the little smaller section, I actually turned my knife almost like if I were using my hand, I would be like doing, you know, using my finger like this. So you can use your knife in that same method. And just turn it, just using the point of the knife, which will help get into some of these smaller spots. Doing behind the knee is really like a sensitive spot and the skin is hard to pull tight there. So doing small sections is probably a safer way to go. And trying to do like down here and then doing up here and trying not to go over that behind the knee area in like a big long piece will help. I mean, that's just a common area to kind of get like a little bruising because of the angle and, you know, just the delicate area with the skin's a little bit delicate there. Okay. So one benefit I have with my hair color is that up here it's mostly blonde and down underneath is where I get my like more brown or darker colors of hair. So I'm focusing a lot on this back of my thigh and inner thigh because that's where I have the darker brown or blacker hairs. And I like to, you know, sugar this blonde hair, but it definitely isn't as bothersome to me as the darker, coarser hairs down here. I already did my bikini line last week, so that's why I don't have any hair up in here. I had done another YouTube video on my upper leg, and there was some comments that people were grossed out by the pubic hair. So I thought this time I'll try it, you know, doing it the opposite way. I'll do my bikini first, and then if people don't want to see bikini hair, they don't have to. We can just look at the leg hair. I don't know why it would make a difference, but I guess it does. So I'm using my left hand to, you know, pull the skin tight wherever I'm sugaring at. And that really does make a difference. If your sugar's not coming off very, you know, easily, it could be that you're just not pulling the skin tight enough. So don't be scared to just pull that skin really tight. Okay, I'm just kind of going around looking for little missed hairs or missed sections. There's actually kind of a little missed section right here. I don't use a spatula very often. Like I mostly sugar with my hand, using my hand to apply the sugar. So I'm sure if I did this more often, I'd probably have some more little special tips and tricks for you. I'm noticing that I'm not as fluid with this technique as I am with using my hand, just because I haven't done this as often. And at just certain angles, it's like, okay, how do I do this so it, you know, is easy? Because I'm feeling like strain in certain angles trying to get the flick. So again, use this hand to really hold that skin. I'm just like pinching and holding that skin. And if you're doing this on somebody else, you might be kind of nervous to like pinch their skin, but you can always ask them, you know, does this hurt? They'll be more thankful if you're holding their skin tight than if you're not. So it's very important to hold the skin tight. Okay, you can still see, all right. And you can see like I've gone over sections more than once. And as long as your skin doesn't feel irritated, that's usually fine to do with sugar. Sugar is pretty gentle. You could also apply powder. If you have pretty sensitive skin, I recommend applying just a little bit of a dusting of maybe cornstarch if that's something you have at home, or baby powder. And I prefer to have, you know, powder that doesn't have any added ingredients, like, you know, if it says it has aloe vera in it, or I think that's kind of the main thing I've seen. But, you know, if it does have things in it, into the powder, it might make it so the sugar doesn't adhere to the skin as well. But overall, I mean, it probably wouldn't make a huge difference. But I was just thinking, if I think I've seen like baby powder that has aloe vera in it, and I don't know if that would create like a little bit of a barrier, but I just know that with sugaring, you don't want to have any like oils or lotions on the skin, because it does interfere with that sugar sticking to the skin. And if the sugar doesn't stick to the skin, then it won't pull the hair out. So that's one thing, you know, if you're applying the sugar and you're like, man, this sugar just isn't really sticking, you might be like, oh yeah, I forgot I put lotion on, you know, earlier that day and just forgot. So it is important to have, you know, clean, dry skin with no lotions. And if you have oily skin, you know, that I would recommend washing it before and then using powder to kind of dry up some of that oil. And of course, if you're a sweaty person, you want to use powder, because the sweat will also interfere. Okay, so I think that's, you know, pretty good for the upper thigh. Let me come this way just to give you a little bit different angle. There is some hair over here left, not too much, but. And this piece of sugar is starting to get to a point where I should replace it. I'm just noticing it's going on, you know, it's having a little bit harder time going on. You can tell it's really white now. There's a lot of hair that it's picked up. So it's not working quite as well, but you know, sometimes it's like, oh, it's still working. I just got a couple more spots. So I'm making do. But that is a question I get a lot, is how do I know when it's time to change the sugar? You know, throw it away and get a fresh piece. And a lot of times you'll know, it'll just stop working as well. And that's when you should replace it. And sometimes it'll just get to a point where you just get stuck with it, because maybe you worked with it so long and you were just like, well, it's still working. And then all of a sudden you'll just get, you know, it'll just be stuck and be really hard to get off. So one thing that's great about sugar is that it's water soluble. So you would be, you know, easily able to wash it off. Usually when I get stuck really well, you know, and if it's just like, okay, I'm not going to be able to get this off, I'll scrape as much off as I can and throw that away, and then use like a washcloth and just get it wet and just scrub, scrub off the wetness. Or, sometimes if I'm like pretty much done with my sugaring and I just have this big piece that got stuck, I'll just jump in the shower and rinse it off in the shower. So up here, these are just little blonde hairs, so they're probably hard to see, but you can hear them coming out. Okay. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed hanging out and seeing a little more of the sugaring technique, especially something that you can easily do at home with a butter knife and just a jar of sugar. You can get this at myGoldSugar.com. There's also more tips on that website, and I'm constantly adding more frequently asked questions. And I think there's a little spot called Grace's Corner that I add questions and comments and things from people using the product or just interested in the product. So you can find out more information there and keep in touch with me. Hopefully, this was my first experience doing a hangout on air, and I was pretty nervous about it. So now that I kind of got over that first hurdle, hopefully you'll see more of me on Google+. Take care. Have a wonderful day.